Hello everybody, welcome back to a new video. Today I'm just getting a project started. It's late in the afternoon and we're tearing out a fan and replacing this. This is a big fan. That's probably 28-30 inch diameter axial fan. It goes southernmost, what we call the Reed bin. Reed is the brand. This was the bin that was here first before the other two, or technically the other 4 or 5 that were down there at one point. And this fan was heavily dilapidated. It had been burrowed under and buried by rodents and stuff, and apparently a lot of dirt was brought into the fan housing. So we're gonna have to get all this cleaned up. I'm working on lining up a Mini X. We'll get in here, clean all of this stuff up, and excavate this down. We're gonna pour a little pad for the new fan to sit on. We're going from whatever that fan was down to an 18-inch axial. Without a burner. That one had a burner in it. This used to be a dryer bin, but we don't need that much airflow going into this bin. At the most, we fill this bin about halfway, and I can walk around the other side to show you why. At one time, this bin had weed in it, and it was sitting in here for multiple years, and you could see exactly to the line where that wheat was filled to. So if we look in there, you can see the rust line where the wheat was. And the wheat just got in every crevice all the way around it. There's holes all the way around this bin. The only good rings on this are the top 2 that are not discolored. So that hole there, corn will run out of if you fill it up to it. So we have about 3,500–4,000 bushel capacity in this bin. Anyway, I just wanted to get you guys a snapshot of what I did today, because we'll come back tomorrow. Dad's supposed to be back from vacation, and we'll get really cranking on this project. Try and get this fan knocked out before we have the parts to do the other fan, and that way we have somewhere to put corn, because it's getting kind of rainy. I got rained out ripping today, and we need to, we've got like 3 good days the end of this week. If we could run a bunch of corn, and then I can be hauling out while it's raining after that, that'd be pretty nice, I think. We're going at it with the Mini. Got a bunch of tree scrub stuff cleared up. This one's a little bigger than I thought it was. I'd never seen this one in person before I borrowed it, but it doesn't fit in between here like the one that I anticipated. So we raked from out there. We raked everything out as well as we could. That's that pile there. So we reached most of the way in. We'll have to tackle this with a chainsaw and stuff later, but for the most part, we're pretty cleared up. I can't get this stuff because of the roof peak, but went around the other side of the big fan, got all the tree shrubs that I could there. That's in that pile too. Now we're gonna get this kind of leveled off so that we can form up cement here for this fan transition. So, and then on the way out, we'll peel this stuff out, and a couple more little trees on the way out. It is now the next day. I'll show you guys a little bit more in depth of what we did yesterday, as well as what I've worked on today so far. I'm waiting for Dad to get back. He had to take some steers to the slaughterhouse, and when he gets back, we'll get this pour done. It just rolled over us. We just got hail, all sorts of stuff. You can't tell. It was very small, very small. It might have been sleet. I don't know. Doesn't seem to be a difference to me between sleet and hail, but so yeah, I'll show you guys what I've been doing, give you a quick. So this morning I got the form built, and I've got everything leveled up and set to pour cement here. We've got the wheelbarrow in here. Dad's truck's on the other side of this lean-to with ready mix in the back. Now what I've come to realize is the grade is really bad in here, and what I mean by that is the bottom of this fan transition is the same as the top of the bin foundation. And we have dirt piled 2, 3, 4 inches in spots higher than the bin foundation of this bin. And I don't like that. I don't want, over time, this dirt's gonna wash back in and this fan will be buried like the other one was. So my plan is to kind of, like I did here with the manual shovel, I kind of just shaved it back, keep it from washing in. And we'll do that when we're done with the cement and got the fan on. But next spring or this coming spring, I think I'm gonna rent a mini skid steer, and we'll use that in here. We can get all the way in here, pull root balls and stuff with it, and then we are gonna shave all this down about 4 inches in here and kind of make it gradually slope around the back side of this fan, and same on this side. It's gonna slope. There's a gas line comes off the tank and goes that way, so we're not going to touch that, but we're going to just gradually slope all this down, and this all is still higher than out here on the other side of the tank, so it'll all just kind of slope around the back side there. And we're trying to keep this big enough to where we can get the lawnmower in here, because when we're done with all this next spring, this is hopefully all going to be seeded down and nice kind of we'll try and make it a low maintenance grass, something that stays short, but we are for sure going to come in here and mow this at least 4 or 5 times this summer. And then we curled up some roofing panels that came off of that barn. That's the barn. My spray stuff is right on the other side of that lean-to. That's kind of referencing where we're at, but this stuff isn't going to be bad. We just basically just got to back drag all this and we can seed this down. It's where any tree was. We've got big holes. So my idea is to use all this dirt that we're going to pull out of here in the spring to fill in the root ball holes and kind of get all this leveled out. I'm working on this area because this area seems like something I can get completely buttoned up this fall. So I've been raking up any foreign materials, starting to fill holes in. I got to bring the skid steer out. There's a couple of humps there. We're going to push all that up here and then back drag it out, get it all graded down out there nice. And we'll grade it all the way down to that laneway out there. And I don't know if I have any seed anymore, but we'll see what we need to get to seed this down. Hey guys, today me and Dad have been tag teaming this bin project, trying to get this fan done. Good news is the motor came in last night for the other one. Me and Dad went and picked it up, and then this morning we ran it to a machine shop because we got to get the end of the shaft drilled out and tapped to a 1/4 inch 20, and they'll have that done mid to end next week. And they are also resurfacing our brake parts for the 4020 because they were so tore up from being metal on metal that you couldn't put the pads on. So they're resurfacing that, so that's going to save us 5, 6, probably upwards of $800 in metal that we would have had to bought through John Deere. So that's good. But we are waiting on that motor yet. But if you look in front of me, we have this one just about mounted up. I think I'm going to stick one more 1/4 inch bolt in the top there, maybe. I don't know, it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere, but now I'm just buttoning up the top. Have to close up these access holes I had to cut in it, and then I'm going to find a piece of metal to patch down there. There's a pretty good hole down there, so try and keep the air movement going into the bin instead of out the outside. But Dad is working on the electrical side, so I think we're gonna reuse this wiring from the old one, at least for now. Later on and down the line we might replace it, but for now, just to get going this year, we're gonna use that. So he's getting some parts yet for us, but it was pretty simple. This is just a black poly plastic. I don't know if that's UHW or what that is, but some sort of heavy poly that we have from lining grain trucks and manure spreaders and stuff like that. It works really well. It's like 1/4 inch thick. So that's pretty stiff. It's not gonna go anywhere. And it's sitting on our concrete pad we poured yesterday that's really dirty. Need another rain to wash it off. And then I'll show you guys, we'll walk around here. That's it back here, I think. Dad we ran new wiring underground here just because we had all this dug up last year at this time. And so we have 2 legs, or 2 circuits, I should say, of wiring here. So he's getting the conduit to run up and put a box here, and then both of these are running in there. And then from that box, we're running back down and around through that black, that's water line, but we'll call it conduit for this sake. And we're running that back around to the fan, and then we'll have another circuit sitting in this box ready for if there's ever an unload put in. So doing our best to keep this breaker box clean and organized so that it's the same way we started with it last year, and I'd say we're doing pretty good. We're adding 2 circuits today, so when we're done today, we'll have 1 free circuit left, which is not enough to put another bin up. We will have to expand or add a second breaker panel when we go to put up the bin back here, but that's future me's problem. There we are. We got a nice old bin lid cut out from when we put those mushroom vents on last year. We gotta do 2 more of them too when we get time, but I didn't order any this year. And then a road sign to cover that part up. We could do some spray foaming and siliconing around that, but for now it's good. It'll get us going. So now we just gotta wait. Dad ran uptown, get all the stuff he needs to wrap this electrical up. Hopefully tonight we can have these bins, these 2 ready to take corn. Obviously we gotta wait on that one, but our 44's fueled up. Got the auger hooked up. This is an 8-inch 60-foot. We make this work. This was the ideal length until we got a hopper bottom. Now we'd be better off with a 70-footer. With a bigger diameter, because this swing out on the 8-inch is not really long enough. I think as your diameters get bigger, the swing out gets a little bigger, or maybe it's with the length, I don't know. But ideally I think we'd want a 70 and at least a 10-inch. We used to run a 13-inch, so if we ever get in really good corn, a 13-inch would probably be needed, but this does work for our needs now. We can unload a truck at the same pace as the combine, but with the hopper bottom as well, we would like to get a swing or a drive over eventually, but those things are expensive. Those things are like 14-15 grand, and you can get a whole auger for 14-15 grand. Shoot, this one was 2 grand I think is what we paid for this, so this works. But I'm gonna come in here with the skid loader and scrape all this muck out of the way, all this nasty, just sloppy stuff, because this is about where we'll be unloading the truck at, and nobody wants to be trudging around in that. The one thing we might have fits with, and we might have to bring the Massey over for, is this tractor has different style hydraulics, either open center or closed center. I can't remember the difference between the 40/20 and this. And this is a single line hydraulic cylinder that runs this. Last time we ran this, we couldn't get it to lift or lower, I can't remember which, but we didn't know at the time that there's a certain port on the tractor you're supposed to use to get that to work. So we'll see if we can do that today or not, but we'll get it set up one way or another. We're on the roof getting this thing set so you can see our spreader. This is one of them, I don't remember what the brand is, but it works fairly well on a dryer bin. Is the only thing I wish we had was the cone on top to get it to flow center. I'd like to go and get one of them eventually. And I see one of our arms is coming off. I gotta fix that. But the spot where we want to be is the spout needs to be just barely in this, and then once we actually have grain flowing in, I'll be climbing up here 3 or 4 times first load, make sure it's centered. And usually you got to favor the front, because the grain favors the front of the back side of this here, so you got to kind of finagle it around. And sometimes I got a bungee cord with me so I can hold it left or right in case we're not exactly center left or right. But for the most part, you can loosen the strap up and finesse this a little bit. But that's what it looks like. I'm going to pull it ahead a little bit and drop it down, and we'll get it in that cradle, and then we should be good for now. Good morning, everybody. Today we are getting this dryer bin completely buttoned up and ready to go, and hopefully we're going to run some corn. If we do run corn, it's going to be in the next video, so stay tuned. You don't want to miss anything. I'm going to be walking you guys through how we use and how to get this dryer up and going. But this is more maintenance. So we are looking at the gearbox in the center. This is your regular center sump here. If you had just an ordinary grain bin, it would be right there, would be the end of your sump, and then the rest would be floor. But because this is a shiver system, we have this big funky gearbox in here. So you got a 90-degree that goes up, and then you have this gearbox that rotates on itself that powers the sweeps, and then you have a stud coming out the top of spline shaft that runs this center auger that goes up. I just replaced this gearbox 2 or 3 years ago, I believe. This actually was not as big of a deal to replace as what you might think it would be. I actually did it with grain in here. We ran everything out the center sump and then everything out the intermediate sump, and then whatever was left in here, we couldn't run the sweeps, so whatever was left in here I shoveled back and partitioned off of plywood. And I was actually able to use a handyman jack. I had to get on a ladder, extension ladder, and go all the way up there, take all the bolts off of or loosen the bolts in those manifolds up there so that this would slide upward, and then used a handyman jack on the floor here and jacked this auger up until it popped out of place, and then I swung it back enough to set on some blocks and took the coupler off, took the sweeps off. The sweeps were the biggest pain because they had thousands of pounds of grain on them, but we did get it out, and I actually got the new one in. That was completely solo. I did this whole project completely on my own, and it worked out. I don't remember what Dad was doing. He was gone somewhere, I think, and got all that out. I think that gearbox runs you around $7,000 though, so it's not a cheap thing to replace, and hopefully it's the only time you have to replace that. Today we are getting ready to harvest corn, so what we need to do is we need to grease these gearboxes. We already did the bottom one. There's a plug on the side there. You take that out, and these take corn head grease. So I have my special corn head grease gun here, and you just squirt grease in the other side until it comes out of that plug. Close it up, and then there's a grease zerk on this input bearing. That took like 3 squirts of grease with the regular grease gun, and then I greased this one with the regular grease gun because I can't remember if that actually takes corn head grease or not. I don't think it does. I believe it's just like a coupler. There's probably a carrier bearing in there or something. And then up here we have a grease zerk there on that bearing as well as there on that bearing, and there isn't one on top. So then I've already taken this plug out, and there's a grease zerk on the opposite end, and we're going to pump corn head grease into this until grease comes out of this port. And then you just put all your panels back in. I have my little handy shop vac with me because getting all those in is a pain. And just because of the patchwork that needs to be done in here, there's a roll of Gorilla Tape over there that I use to close up the seams. But as you can tell, it doesn't really do a lot. The gearbox will be completely covered in corn by the end of the season. Alright, now that that's all buttoned back up, you can see I always have an issue with that auger settling overnight on the first setup. I don't know if there's air that's getting that lift cylinder or what, but I leave all this open. When we get here with the first truck, we'll reset the auger where we like it and then start flowing grain in. And I want to watch in here where the grain's falling, and I'll adjust the auger accordingly. Try and get it as level as possible. When your grain is high in spots and low in other spots, it drops your drying efficiency with an in-bin dryer because your air can flow through those lower spots faster, and it won't flow through those high spots because if the air can get through the other side faster, then that side will then the air will all go to that side instead of being even. So we want it as level as possible. Shivers does offer a new piece of equipment called the Level Dry, which is a really cool piece of technology. It's just more moving parts to put in the bin is what I don't like about it. It's basically a floating auger that swings around the bin at the top, and so throughout the day you obviously increase it if your grain level hits it. It's more for having a wet bin and feeding your shiver system with a wet bin. Well, if I'm going to do that, then I'm just going to put up a continuous flow dryer and do away with my shivers. I don't know why that's a thing, but it is, and it's pricey. It's like 15 grand, so it would increase flow and efficiency and all that, but it just doesn't make sense to me. When me and Dad talked last night on the phone because he had left, he's tracking down circuit breakers because we had all the breakers we need for all 3 bins, but last year we had one go bad on the far bin, so we're looking for another 30 amp. He found one, I think, so he went to get it, and he's gonna work on getting this fan up and going. And now that this is completely ready to go, I'm gonna go switch the combine over, put the head on, check the truck over. We're gonna be using the straight truck, And I'm going to track down a weigh wagon and try and get all our calibrations, get the combine dialed in, all that today, and get a nice soft start going. And then tomorrow, if we're both got our projects complete, we'll just run full bore and get all our early corn done. I've got this pallet of tools sitting here. I'm going to grab these shovels, throw them in the back of the truck, and then I'll just come over here with the skid steer and grab this and take all this to the shop at once. We lost a tape measure. Seems like every time we work at the grain bins, tape measure gives up, but oh well. That tractor's gonna need a bath. We'll get that done. I think I'm gonna do some more ripping today before we get started on corn. So what the deal is now, I just got back with the weigh wagon. I had to go, what is it, 17 miles north and get a weigh wagon and come back. So now it's 1:30. Dad has to pull a hayride at 2 for a neighbor. So he's gone, so I don't have anybody to shuffle machinery back and forth with. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get the combine ready, because we still gotta switch it over. It ran beans last. Fairly simple, we just gotta pull the knives out of the chopper. Switching from soybeans to corn, I left the feeder house speed the same. Or switching from corn to soybeans, I left the feeder house speed the same. And I think I changed the drum clearance. Let me check. Yeah, so we just have to flip into the higher position. The drum's already at the right speed. And then from there, we just have to change everything in the back. We gotta open the pre-cleaner up 3 turns. And we have to open the sieve, chaffer, and extension. I'm gonna set it for... we'll just go by the book, because the corn that I was in before was custom corn, so it wasn't the same program. Cobs and everything are going to be different, I think. So we'll set it for what the book says to start with, and then adjust from there. Now, as far as the cylinder clearance and the rotor speed, I'm going to set them the same as they were the other day. We're running drier corn. It was doing a good job the other day. The only thing it had was cob in the tank, but I think that's because I went over there with the high moisture corn settings. With high moisture corn, I had my pre-cleaners open an extra half a turn, so I think that was just pieces of cob was able to get through the pre-cleaner instead of getting pushed out the back. So that's all that was. With high moisture corn, cob is not a big deal to have in the tank. It grinds up, it's got feed value as well as the kernels, so we just rather put cob in the tank than corn on the ground in that position. So yeah, so that's it. Clearance, we were running really tight. I don't know if you guys know or if I told you, our concaves are really bad shape on this combine. The plan is to change them out next summer. That's going to be right around that $2,500 to $3,000, I think. Once we replace everything needed, we might go through and do the shoe augers and shoe bearings and all that while we're in there. I don't know. But with that being wore out, and then as well as this has just been a weird fall for combine settings, we're running really tight. We're on like 8 to 10 on our concave clearance, and rotor speed was like 450, I think, when we were running high moisture corn. All right, combine's all switched over. I'm not gonna grease it today because it only ran for a couple hours to finish beans up, and I had done a full service on it. But it's always necessary to check oil and hydraulic oil and coolant before you start the combine up first thing. Because no matter when you checked it last, you would feel really stupid if you jumped in, turned the key, and blew an engine up because for some odd fluke reason it leaked all the oil out since you used it last. So that's what you do. And that is good. I always forget about this. This doesn't have to be done today because we don't have any fields that are next to lawns and stuff. But we do got to switch that chopper over to low at some point. Move this belt over to this pulley. Because that's set up to spread soybean stubble and wheat stubble on a 25-foot swath. Now we're running corn, which is 15, so you jump that to low so that it doesn't spew corn cobs and corn trash all over people's yards. And our truck is sitting here. We pumped in as much fuel as we could. There's not as much in this truck as I would like to have seen, but we're not going far, so hopefully we can get enough loads in. We may end up having to switch to the hopper bottom just because of that, but I don't know. We'll see. It should get us through the day anyway. If we have to tomorrow, we'll throw the portable fuel tank in the truck and run down the road tomorrow and get some off-road, or just get some diesel. Yeah, some diesel. I actually think the on-road diesel is cheaper than the off-road down there, but I don't remember. Oh, I don't know what it was last time we filled. Fuel's going down. I'm pretty happy. But, yep. Everything's sitting here ready to go. So, you guys will have to come back next time, see us actually running. This is the end of this video, so thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you next time.